Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of Guadalajara, the show of tequila, following in your father's footsteps, and so much more. Today, I finally sit down and chat with Eduardo, a.k.a. Lalo González, the creator and founder, one of the creators and founders of Lalo Tequila. It has been taking Texas by storm, and I see people posting about it all the time, so he's doing something right. The bottle is incredible. I do love the minimalistic design, and the juice is good. And so we sit down and we talk about the legacy of his father, his grandfather, and what it really takes to run a brand. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this great chat with Lalo González.
Started coming to Austin probably like the first trip that I did to Austin was around 2018.
Yeah.
We were making some adjustments we were suiting the bottle and the packaging to the US market.
Mm-hmm.
So I was coming here with my business partners, just kind of like to work around the packaging.
I see.
And
is it like a design firm you're working for?
We kind of like the final kind of like touches. We did it like in-house. But
okay.
But like they were kind of like helping us on just like minimal design.
Sure.
So I always started coming to Austin to kind of like oversee that, and then and just kind of like just meeting with distributors and kind of like setting the land to launch the brand.
Did you know you were gonna move here? Was that the plan, or just
it was seen from the get-go? It was a suggestion from we're three founders.
Yeah.
David, which he's
childhood
from
friend,
Guadalajara.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Jim and Jim is from Austin, born and raised here.
Okay.
And myself. And the original suggestion was like from Jim, like, hey, but you'll need to come here and
I see.
kind of like, work and spread the word here in Austin. So you will eventually have to move here.
Yeah.
And it's not because, I love like being here. It's not only because it's Austin, it's just because it's where it's like the location of the city and the location of Texas in general. It's very central.
Yeah.
So like traveling around Guadalajara and the US, like it's fairly easy.
Yeah, it's a quick flight to Guadalajara.
It's a quick flight
Mexico City.
Yeah, we don't have a nonstop flight. We used to have one.
Yeah,
but I just drive to San Antonio, and we have a nonstop flight from San Antonio, and it's like a less than 2-hour flight.
Yeah, that's great.
And then Austin, LA, 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Austin, New York, 3 hours.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me to like just being on the road all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not being in New York or LA that it's kind of like the coverage and the distances are
so logistically it makes
exactly
sense. Yeah, I think that I honestly had never thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right, because I did book that Guadalajara flight from San Antonio today.
I used just one day. The very first time I came to Austin, I took the Volaris flight.
Okay, yeah.
And then like a few months later, they canceled.
Yeah. It's such a pain the way the airlines work like that.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things, and I your wife is very fashionable, works in fashion. That's been one of the tenets of the brand too. And I imagine there'll be more musical partnerships, art, and things like that. And something that I want to commend you on, because I love art as well, and I love aesthetic.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you should see my sneakers, like that's how my point of fashion and stuff.
Yeah.
I always like them colorful. But there's something really beautiful in the simplicity of the bottle,
yeah.
the Lalo bottle. When you went into designing this, because I know you probably work with a firm just to kind of get some ideas, whiteboard and stuff. But was there any kind of aesthetic place that you were coming from? You're like, I kind of want it to feel like this.
I think that, I mean, if you look to a shelf, especially like a shelf that has like a lot of tequila bottles,
Yeah.
they usually follow the same line, right?
Yeah, right.
It's something that they just follow, and again, since we launched Lalo, we wanted to be different. It's hard to be different on such a crowded category, right? It's huge, and there's a lot of brands out there. So we came with the idea of kind of like showcasing our Mexico in the bottle, and our Mexico is not as simple as the bottle, right?
Yeah.
But Mexico, it's more than rancheros. Mexico is more than people drinking on the streets, and
Right.
and Mexico is more than donkeys.
Yes.
Mexico, the culture that we have, the cuisine that we have, the architecture that we have, which it kind of like touches some of the bottle inspiration. It's very contemporary. It's simple, but it's perfect, but imperfect.
Yes.
In some ways.
I get, I read an interview that you did. This is funny because I spent a lot of time in Mexico and being in Texas.
Yeah.
I've had I don't know if you want to call it a privilege. I think it's a privilege of going to.
It is a privilege.
Going to Juarez a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is that I'm going to draw two kind of similarities here. One is that a lot of people in this interview, you said they misinterpret what Mexico is about. And I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's much more hospitable than you would think. People get this perception about Mexico City being a dirty city. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
They're more health conscious than Austin is, in my experience, So there's a lot of misperceptions. But the thing is that's interesting. I was watching Sicario the other day, which is a great movie. There is some truth to that too. And so I think what's really amazing about Mexico is I think Americans think of it as one same colored kind of place without texture and nuance. But the truth is, it's just like the United States in the sense that East Coast is different than West Coast, North is different from the South.
Yeah.
And so this is something that I love because going back to the aesthetic of the bottle, I think it captures old and new.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really kind of how Mexico is.
It's traditional, but at the same time, it's also very progressive.
That's right.
And if you can see it in, for example, just kind of like to put kind of like a name on it, Barragan architecture.
Okay.
Barragan, it's very colorful, but it's very simple.
Yes.
And I think that like the bottle, especially like the church logo that we have, which is an inspiration of the Church of Atotonilco. It has like very kind of like straight lines, but it also has a round line.
Yeah.
It talks about how imperfect but also perfect Mexico is.
It's a great symbol. Like, it's a really interesting metaphor,
It is. I think it just represents a lot of our culture in such a simple way.
Yeah.
Which at the end, you want that in a brand.
That's right.
In a brand name, but also in a brand icon.
Yeah.
That you can remember that.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And that makes a lot of sense now because I knew it was evoking something. And,
yeah.
It looks like the church. Is that the church? I think it is, and all of that. But your story begins. You were born and raised ultimately in Guadalajara, right?
Yes.
In the city or out more towards the.
In the city.
Yeah.
I mean, in the city, we're based out of Guadalajara, and but I mean, I spent a lot of time in Atotonilco when I was growing up, and then when we ended up selling Don Julio in 2003. Again, I kind of like continued my relation with Atotonilco because I mean we have a property there, we have a ranch there, we have a distillery there.
Still a family out there.
Still family, and I kind of like continue to learn because I always say this, like in this industry you never stop learning.
Oh, there's no way to stop
there's
learning.
No way, and I'm still learning a lot.
Yeah.
Which is fun, and I mean how boring it is if you like know everything, right?
Oh, How dare you? How dare one even think that they know everything?
Exactly.
It's impossible.
So like when we sold Don Julio, I just continued kind of like the learning at the distillery, and apart from the distillery, learning from my dad on how to build a brand.
Yeah.
A successful brand.
What? Because it's pretty common knowledge. Your father developed Don Julio based on the, which is actually, if you think about it, so your father builds Don Julio as a brand based on his grandfather, and then you build anyway.
Yeah.
Following in his footsteps, of course. But the thing is what kind of guy was it? Because I know he passed in 2017, right?
Yeah, he passed in 2017. Suddenly, obviously, it was a very hard experience for me. I'm the only child.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I have two sisters.
Yeah,
older sisters. But yeah, I mean, it was tough, but at the same time, I'm like, I always try to think about like positive things when something happens.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, this is a great opportunity for me to honor my father on my own way.
Did he know that you had any plans to start a tequila?
Yeah,
he did. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
as long as he because
it's funny because like when I had all this like this pitch, right? And this was the initial pitch of like the bottle design and the story and kind of like the idea behind the brand and the Blanco only piece and my father was at home and I was like, hey, I want to show you something. So I opened my laptop.
Yeah.
I started going through the pitch. And he's like, oh my God, this is really cool. Like, who owns this? And I'm like, me. and he's like, no way. Like, are you like doing it? And I'm like, yeah, I guess, yes.
So he didn't know before you showed
No. I started kind of like on
just on the down
on my
low.
end, kind of like on the dark.
Yeah.
And when I showed him, he was like, "This is so cool."
Wow.
And he told me like, that I have a brand. So like, I mean,
yeah,
I support you, but like at a certain level. And I'm like, no, I'm not asking for like your support.
Right.
I mean, obviously, thank you, but I'm asking you just for your advice.
Yeah.
And
Is
you
this
think it's a
sound?
cool idea that this like kind of like clicks in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, absolutely, yes.
Wow.
Keep doing it. So, that was in I think like 7-8 months before he passed.
Really? Okay.
When he was able to see like a bottle, a finished bottle.
Yeah.
But then he passed, and then it was another name actually when we started Lalo. It was called Casa Puyol.
Oh, like the restaurant?
Like the same Puyol with a J. And then one of the suggestions that Jim, one of my business partners, he came up with the suggestion of changing the name.
Oh wow!
He was like, I don't think the name will resonate. I don't think the name resonates with the story.
Yeah.
So we should think about just kind of like rename the bottle when we launch in the US.
Yeah.
And we went through like a lot of names.
I'm sure.
Right? And the very last one, Jim was like, let's call it Lalo. And I'm like, I don't want to have my name on a bottle.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like I don't want to have my name on the bottle. One, because like we're three and I don't want people thinking that it's just like me. That's one. And then the other one is like it's a lot of responsibility to have your name on a brand.
Especially tequila.
And especially
tequila. A lot
tequila.
of expectation there.
A lot of expectations. And then also like, I mean, we are human beings and we can commit mistakes and we can make mistakes. So if my name is attached to like a brand that
how do you separate the two? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, thankfully, like my mom and my dad, the education that they gave me, like it's, I mean, I think it's amazing. So, but still, I mean, we're human beings. But like Jim is like, no, you're actually you're not thinking it right. And I'm like, what's that? Like, no, like it's Lalo because of your dad, not because of you. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I'm Lalo, and like people, like when I introduce myself, yes, I'm Lalo. No, Lalo Tequila, yes,
Yeah.
but then the brand, it's named after my father,
Yeah.
which I think it's beautiful because he was building Don Julio under like his father's name,
Yeah.
and he never got the public recognition.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, not at all.
And this is a way of like, even if he's not with us anymore, like we can kind of like keep his
Commemorate.
memory,
Yeah.
like in a bottle. That like right now we're so thankful and grateful to say that we are one of the largest tequila blancos in the country, and that his name is there.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And his memory is there. So like as a son, is something that like I really 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 enjoy, and I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
You know,
I would be too. I think that's an amazing way to commemorate and remember your father.
Yeah.
So you went to business school in Monterrey, is that right?
In Guadalajara.
In Guadalajara, okay.
So I started in Guadalajara, in Tecnológico de Monterrey. Then my family went through the not that's Monterrey.
Right. Yeah,
Tecnológico Monterrey Campus Guadalajara.
Okay, got it.
It's a big university or college in Mexico.
Yeah,
and
they have just different locations.
Yeah,
okay, different got it. That's where. Okay.
So I started there, and then my family went through like a big financial problem. So I ended up like dropping out of school and start working because like there was no money basically to continue, like in college.
Yeah. Was this when the recession happened in the States, like in 2008ish, or this before?
Well, the problem started there, but like it kind of like got worse around like 20. Well, yeah, like 2010.
Yeah, 2010.
Yeah,
something like that.
In Mexico and in my family, like we were in a big, huge, like still financial problem.
Yeah.
So like I had to just kind of like help out,
yeah.
and kind of like more than help out is just like let's just wait and you start working on something. So I started working and doing a lot of stuff, and then in 2014 between 2014 and 2015, I don't have like my dates right, but like 2014 2015 I continued in another school, but I had already like started Lalo around that time, like between 2014 2015 I started talking with David about doing something together. Wait, and
David Sro?
No, David. My business partners. Yeah. And then I didn't finish, so I don't have any college degree.
That's okay. I mean, you're an entrepreneur.
I am, yeah.
Is that, I've always asked this question because it's like I'm not very tall, right? So it's very clear I couldn't will myself into being taller. That was it was a genetic thing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But entrepreneurialism, I wonder if it does kind of pass along with our genes, or if it's all learned. So your father is an entrepreneur.
Yes.
I mean, did you get it from him, or did you just have this drive by yourself?
That's probably one of the most interesting questions that I've like someone asked me, and I thought about it, to be honest. When I was growing up, I think I didn't have the personality probably to be an entrepreneur.
Extroverted, kind of like that kind of
yeah, I was more like introvert. And I think that I'm thankful, and everything happens for a reason. Why? That's what I think. And same. What kind of like pushed me to do something, and kind of like
take it to the next
level. It to the next level. Yeah. Exactly. It was like what I experienced with like this financial problem with my family, and that kind of like pushed me to, okay, you can do it, and if it doesn't work out, you're young and you can do whatever.
Rebound, yeah.
Whatever, and you can do whatever you want. But I honestly, I grew up on like on a family that my dad was super like he was always giving us like like stuff. Never it. We have in Mexico we have this saying of like nada me faltó,
Yeah.
like the opposite, like trips and travel and like things and like like I was super super lucky when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep living the same like life.
Yeah. Right.
So that kind of like pushed me to like, okay, I have to do something. But honestly, like Lalo, the tequila, that was very organic how it happened. Like, and everything again, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And to your question of like if I all like when I was growing up, like I always had this like mindset of entrepreneur. I don't think so. I think I developed it.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was not the kid that was putting like a lemonade stand
right.
outside his house. No.
I've interviewed people that they did that door to door going.
Well,
so,
you interview David.
Yeah.
He is like that.
Is he?
David, my business partner, he's like, his mindset was always like doing things. That was not my case. Jim as well, super entrepreneur. That was not my case, but I think I developed it, and I mean, now I can say yes, I'm an entrepreneur.
Were there any other businesses that you started before that maybe didn't work out, or other ideas that you had?
No, I mean, this is weird, but I was in insurance.
Were you?
Selling insurance? Mm-hmm. And I think that like my life put me in that position because I had to learn how to sell.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, I don't know. And selling insurance is tough, man.
Right.
It's really really hard. So like that kind of like put me like on a position of selling something that is really like it's hard to sell.
Right. And
kind of like develop my instincts or I don't know, like my skills exactly. And that's I guess that's why like I was doing that for almost like 3 or 4 years. And then I mean I had Lalo like kind of like I was doing Lalo in the background and I mean with like no money at all, like just kind of like doing it like every now and then and kind of like baby steps.
Yeah.
Until like I was like, okay, I feel really good about it. I have some savings. Let's go. Let's do it.
Now that I know that you have partners. I have partners too, and sometimes some of us are more visual or in the media than others, and fine, that just happens.
Yeah.
But I do notice you out there doing tastings and doing education, and so now that you, in a sense, I consider that kind of like performing. Right?
Yeah.
Like being a musician on stage because you're at the front of the room.
Yeah.
People are listening to you. Maybe you're not singing the song, but you're talking about a thing that you're passionate about, right? Just like singing a song.
Yeah.
And so now, was that a hard, because you're just talking about being a little more introverted many years ago. Is it easier now? Do you really enjoy the being in the spotlight part of this gig?
I mean, being on, I don't care, and like people that know me, like I don't mind the spotlight, and I don't care the spotlight, but I really enjoy being in front of people and talking about our passion.
Yeah,
I love that, and I developed that.
Yeah,
I was really shy when I was growing up, like public speaking. Oh my god, I was terrible.
Really,
but like terrible. And obviously in Spanish. Imagine me in English. like I mean, I was again. I'm super thankful and grateful that I was on a school since kindergarten that they taught me English from the beginning.
That's great.
And so yes, I mean, when you're in a school that like you have like English lessons, it's great. But if you don't practice it, like you're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
right. So, I mean, I had the basis of like English, and I was okay when I started coming to the US and like doing staff trainings at restaurants and like talking to people. Jim was like obviously he didn't told me.
Yeah.
Uh, but now he tells me,
No, yeah.
like, oh my god, when you like stood up and you did the very first staff training, I was worried, man, like
Really?
because my English was not like uh great.
Yeah.
You know, it was not good. Um, but again, practicing it,
That's
and
right.
doing like I mean, I improved. And obviously, if you stand in front of people or an audience and you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't, that's a problem.
Yes.
And you can be the most outgoing and the most like I don't know, like yeah, outgoing guy,
Yeah, sure. Charismatic. Yeah.
charismatic, exactly. But if you don't know what you're talking about, that's a problem.
You lose trust in the people that you're talking to.
Exactly. I know what I'm talking about, and when someone asks me a question that I don't know the answer, I'm like, I'm so sorry, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'll look for the answer and
Yeah.
I'll get back to you. But I know what I'm talking about, and and it's factual what I'm
Mhm.
talking about.
So it always comes across as authentic.
Exactly, and that helps with like with
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. It
Um,
bridges that gap.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I to your question, I really enjoy being in front of people.
I do too. When I was a kid, however, I was on debate, so I was giving speeches impromptu every weekend and getting judged on it. So I spent a lot of time
I was not that
practicing.
kid.
No, I find that a lot of people never pursued that, and I don't know if that's because of my age and when I grew up and stuff. I'm not sure, but it was a very helpful thing.
Mm-hmm.
But practicing it was very helpful. Talking in a complete way, not saying having my ideas kind of stacked already so that I
Yeah.
can deliver something. Were there any specific exercises that you did to, besides practice in English, any things that you did to try to improve how you were delivering this education? Some people look in the mirror and they deliver and they talk.
No, I mean, I wasn't like kind of like practicing my speech. I mean, I obviously the way I frame the story, uh, it has a structure,
Yes.
right? Because obviously, yeah, you need to like have a structure on the way you're delivering a
Right.
message, right?
Yeah.
So I always talk first about kind of like the background and how Lalo came to be,
Mm-hmm.
the brand. Then I talk about the production process, and then I talk about the packaging.
Yeah.
And depending on who am I speaking to or talking to, I tweak
Mm-hmm.
or I put more emphasis on one thing or the other.
Yeah. Right.
But that approach, it was just like practicing it and kind of like sensing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's funny. When before launching Lalo, I met Tito,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I told him the story, and he's like, wow, like this is an amazing story, congratulations. And he told me like, you know that you're gonna tell that story like a million times, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know that. And he's like, do you know that you need to have your elevator pitch, your 5-minute version, your 10-minute version, your an hour version? And I'm like, yeah. Okay, just keep doing it because you're gonna tell the story a lot of times. And I mean, yes, I've talked about the Lalo story multiple million times, and obviously you practice it and you get I guess better on it. Especially because the English, right?
Yeah.
The
right.
English barrier that now I think it's not a barrier anymore.
Yeah, that's great.
It's just a matter of like organizing the ideas and kind of like sensing the audience.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the best part is kind of just reading the crowd. One of the things that I think about when you have business partners, and you kind of talked about a couple, David specifically being the really get-going sales guy.
Yeah.
It seems like the three of you are quite different as individuals. So as a part of a team, what are the skills that you feel you bring that are your Lalo Eduardo skills that are not David or Jim? I think was the other partner.
I think that, listen, I can Me and Jim, we operate very similar in a way of like business wise, um, like emails and like following up and like more kind of like technology driven and like Excels and like charts.
You like numbers?
I'm not good on numbers, to be honest. But I like kind of like doing charts and like going through the like an Excel chart.
Okay. Is it because you're a visual person? Is that?
I guess. Yeah.
Because sometimes I think about that, right? Like talking is an oral thing.
Yeah.
So if you like listening, then you would probably like talking.
Exactly. So I write a lot.
Yeah. Oh.
And Jim, he's really good on numbers. He's really, really good on numbers. He's super wise. And David, though, he has a different personality, but like he has such a charm, and he has just the ability to connect with people.
Yeah.
And if he's in a room, like the room will put full attention to him. And not because like he's loud or he's like, no, like because like he has something that is really, really special.
Yeah.
And when you like, he has such an ability to connect with people and kind of like remembering stuff from a conversation. Like, for example, you and me you were sitting here and you mentioned that when you were a kid, you used to love a Mexican toy that is called Valero. I mean, I'm just making this up, right? A Valero is kind of like a thing that I don't know, it's kind of like
the
Valero.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. He will remember that.
Yeah.
And if he, like a month later, he's on a market in Mexico and he sees a Valero, he's like, oh, Mike told me that he used to love Valeros when he was a child. I'm going to buy this. And next time I see him, I'm just going to give him a Valero.
That's amazing.
That's meaningful for you, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That's how David is. And I think that what I bring to the table, it's kind of like I'm very organized. And when I was, I mean, now we have a team, right? But like when I was running the entire Mexico operations, like the production, the bottles, the corks, I was fairly good at it. Obviously, when we started growing, I was like, Jim, I need help. But because I can't do this and then traveling all the time, you know. But I also think that being on the market, connecting with people and just meeting people, I think I'm good at it.
Yeah.
Not as good as David. But we have like our lines very clear in the business.
That's great.
That like my line is very industry driven and distributor driven. I also do consumer events, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like an hybrid. David is 100% consumer driven and just connecting with people and meeting people and hey, like I met this guy, like he wants Lalo for his party and apparently he's like a huge guy on media or whatever.
Right.
But it's very organic the way he does it. And Jim is a hybrid, but he runs the company.
I see.
With Jeff, they're both co-CEOs.
Right. So, you mentioned, this is a question I love asking people because I find myself to be very creative. I think to create a brand, there has to be some kind of creative muscle inside of you.
100%. And David
he's very creative.
Super creative. He's a creative mind. I am, but not as, I mean, David is a creative one.
Yeah.
And he thinks and I'm sorry that I forgot that, but like that's how I will describe David.
Yeah.
The creative mind in the company.
Interesting.
And he thinks of things that like it's like where it's coming this.
Yeah. Where does he live?
He lives here in Austin.
Oh, okay.
And Jim as well.
I'll get the opportunity to meet him at some point then.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's super nice.
Yeah. When you mentioned that you write and you enjoy writing.
Yeah.
Is it for the purpose of documenting things? Is it for the purpose of you getting ideas out? What is the best way to describe that?
I like writing ideas that just come to mind. I like. I mean, when I'm planning a trip, for example, like we're going in 3 weeks to Japan.
Oh, amazing!
It's an our wedding anniversary, so like we've been like dying to go to Japan.
Where are you going? Japan?
Tokyo,
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Hakone, and Kyoto.
Amazing.
And I've been fascinated by the Japanese culture for a long time, and the food as well.
Oh yeah.
So for example, now that we're going to Japan, I like to just write the itinerary and those things that it's not very deep writing, to be honest, but it's just like a way of me just kind of like a frame something that I want to do.
This is
checklists.
Pen to paper.
Yes.
You have a specific pen that you like?
I recently in the office, like they brought these Muji pens. That they're really nice. So now it's we joke in the office here in Austin, but like we joke that saying like, oh, this is the official Lalo office pen, Muji, and we have them at the office. That's the one I like.
Yeah, and I know that I've figured you'd have a specific one. Yeah, like I want to use that one because people that like the concept. Because I love writing, but I do this in the keyboard profession. I can't write worse shit. Like my lyrics, if they're barely legible, if you can read them in my notepad.
Oh, really? You write like a doctor?
Yeah, a doctor that's losing his eyesight, apparently. One of the things that I found interesting, because I read the Ask Me Anything that you did on Reddit too, which it's kind of all the same kinds of questions. I didn't want to cover that stuff because that's like out there.
Yeah.
But I did. I'll touch on bourbon first because you said, Don Julio, that brand did have obviously aged marks. How did your dad feel about like whiskey and aging tequila?
He was really passionate about that, and more than aging, I think he was like kind of like always ahead of his time. He started working with his dad, with my grandfather, when he was a delivery boy in Atotonilco, delivering tequila cases.
Oh, okay.
And then because he was very creative as well, and he was always thinking ahead. In 1982, if I'm not mistaken, 1985, sorry, he moved with my mom and my oldest sister to Bardstown, Kentucky.
He moved to Bardstown?
He moved to Bardstown, Kentucky for 9 months.
Wow.
From all the places, right? But obviously, like since then, he already had this idea of elevating the tequila experience. He was like, I think it's not fair, because he started traveling. When we started exporting tequila, it was like kind of like they were just exporting tequila on pipes, on like truck pipes to Chicago, and they were bottling it in the 80s.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a great piece of history.
Yes. And since my grandfather, he didn't speak English, my father, he learned English. So he was helping him a lot, and he was traveling around the US. And he noticed something in the industry, that tequila was like the tequila options that you guys had here in the US were not great.
Yeah.
But also that the people, they were just like shooting tequila, or drinking tequila on shots. Yeah, but it was not as sophisticated as it is right now.
Yeah.
And my father was like thinking on all these like process that you go through to make tequila, and kind of like thinking about the process of like whiskeys or bourbons. He's like, there's more, with all the respect to bourbons and whiskeys, but he was like, there's more charm around the agave. There's more charm about the process.
Yeah.
Why are they doing that with the juice? And since then, he was like, there's a lack of education in agave spirits and in tequila. I mean, it was tequila back then, not agave spirits. Like now we can talk about agave spirits because it's a category, but like back then, like it was tequila.
Yeah.
So he already had the idea of elevating the tequila experience and educating the consumer, and kind of like bring or launch a premium brand. There was no such thing as premium tequila back then in the 80s, early 90s. So he moved to Bardstown to learn more about
That's why.
the bourbon culture
Interesting.
and to work at Barton Brands, which right now it's 1793, I guess.
1792, yeah.
1792, sorry.
Mhm.
So he was there for like 9 months.
Working at Barton. Wow.
Working there and kind of like learning more. And he was really, really passionate about like this concept of elevating the tequila experience.
Yeah.
Obviously, my dad and my mom, they were the only couple living in Bardstown, Kentucky in 1985. So they made an article at a newspaper.
No
And
way.
I have
You have it?
I have it. I can send it to you.
Yeah, that's great.
But since then, he already had that idea of like tequila is not what you guys think, which I find it really, really fascinating for me because like he was thinking like way ahead, but like way ahead. Like no one thought about tequila like that. No one.
Mm.
So obviously he came back to Guadalajara and Totonilco with kind of like very excited about this. Kind of like he bought a computer.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like he didn't tell his father that he bought a computer because I mean at that time the computers were super
Very
expensive.
expensive, yeah.
And he started kind of like envisioning the next thing, which was Don Julio.
Interesting.
That was in 1985, and then 1987. And then I think I don't know the year exactly, but between 1985 and 1987, my grandfather had an aneurysm.
Mm.
So my father, he came to the office and he found his father on the desk, laying down, and he basically dragged him to the hospital, and basically the doctor said like he's too stressed, like there's a lot going on in the company, so you just need to not retire him, but like kind of like ease his work.
Yeah.
So he was a little kind of like down and sad. I mean, my grandfather started working as a janitor when he was 7 years old. Sorry.
Wow.
In Totonilco.
Yeah.
So been working for his entire life since 7 years old, and then they tell him you have to stop. Like that's
a lot.
That's a lot, right? Yeah. So in 1987, we were celebrating 45 years of my grandfather as a tequila producer, as a tequilero.
Wow.
And my father already had kind of like this idea of like this premium brand.
Yeah.
So he was like, why don't we like launch this special edition tequila for the 45th anniversary dinner party with the name of my father on the label.
Yeah.
And let's see what people think. And that's where like Don Julio was launched.
That's it.
In 1987.
I think it's a really important part of the history. So when you do the Lalo education for your brand, I'm going to touch back on the question I had after that. Is this part of how you talk about tequila too? Because is this part of this?
It's education? It's part of the education. It's part of the story because obviously, like, I think that if you're in front of people, like, you just need to, like, explain like why are you there?
Yeah,
and that's not the whole reason why we're doing it.
Yeah,
like we're building our own story.
Yeah, of course,
and we're not like grabbing the Don Julio story to, like it's part of my personal story.
Your family.
It's my family.
Yeah.
I grew up in this world.
Yeah.
So obviously I share that. But then, we explain, for example, the Blanco only piece is very important. The Mexican ownership is very important. The way we make Lalo is the most important thing. The way we envision the flavor profile, like why Lalo tastes the way it tastes. It's kind of like very... It's mindful.
Mindful, yes, it is. And what I'm glad you talked about Bardstown because it's a huge intersection point between the aging. Obviously, if not all the barrels, some come from France and some Scotch, right? But you made the distinct choice to only do a Blanco.
Yes.
And so I know I'm a mezcal guy. I understand. Like you would never put like usually a Tepestate or Tobala in a cask. It would be pointless.
Yeah.
You remove a lot of the nuance, all of that. But just like your preference, not as a business owner, you prefer Blanco.
I drink Blanco. And that's what, not only I drink Blanco, David and Jim,
Yeah.
we all three drink Blanco. So, like, when, again, on the same idea of being different,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm bringing something different and cool to the industry. Not only, oh, I'm launching a tequila because I'm Don Julio's grandson. No, I mean,
it doesn't hurt, but
I mean, that's the easy way
Yeah,
of doing
right,
it.
exactly.
But like, I mean, we were like, let's take this like ahead, and it's not only that.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate my story. I was very lucky on the where the family I come from, but like, it's not all.
Mm-hmm.
So like, the approach in Lalo was mainly because like we saw all these like new trends, right, in tequila, and there's a commercial component on why tequilas they release 5, 6,
Mhm.
7 SKUs,
Yeah, of course.
shelf space,
That's right.
and consumer kind of like awareness.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think a lot of people have like 10 kids. They just can build they build a little army, right?
Exactly. And I get it. I mean,
Sure,
it makes sense.
yeah.
Makes sense, right? Like, why not?
Yeah.
If you can do it, like, why not?
Yeah.
But I think like when we were thinking and envisioning Lalo, is like, no, let's go back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have intention in what we're doing, and it will be a great way of honoring the memory of my grandfather and my father, not only by saying, oh, I'm continuing the legacy and I have a tequila.
Yeah.
No, like, I'm continuing the legacy, but with kind of like this approach.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're different. Yeah.
And I can't think about any other tequila brand that is doing the same at the level that we're doing it.
Yeah.
And that was one reason why like we decided to make only a Blanco,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up working really good, because sometimes when you have, again, 4 or 5 different SKUs, and then you have a sales team that is there trying to
That's a lot of
put the
stuff.
bottles on
Yeah.
on shelves, and you've been like, I mean, you've been involved in back bars.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's tough to pick, like, it's tough to pick one.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine like they're trying to push 4 or 5 at the same time.
Yeah.
So for our team was really, I mean, it's not easy, obviously, but it's easier to just go and just give me a chance with just one.
Yeah.
Just one. And if it doesn't move, then take it out of the back bar. But just give me the chance with one.
Yeah.
And the same happens with our distributor partners. Just give me the chance with Lalo Blanco, 750. Easy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that ended up like, I mean, that was not the reason why, but like that's kind of like a side benefit of,
Yeah, of course.
of having just a Blanco. But I mean, the reason is like more like deep than just that. It's my family, and it's a heritage that I represent, and that I feel that if you have intention,
Mm-hmm.
it's much better.
I agree. I mean, it's just about being truthful and having the
Yes.
knowledge, like you said, when you're doing education in front of other people. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And you don't know what will happen in the future, right?
No, of
with the
course not.
category.
Yeah.
The category, probably something happens with Blancos. I don't know.
Well, yeah, when it's strange, there's a tipping point. And when I was just out,
Uh-huh.
agave, if I could buy it and get it over here, I would, because everybody's like just putting it out on their front porch. But can you buy this agave? Because
Yeah.
it's going to crisis. A lot of people don't realize it's going to start hitting. Which then I think, well, is that better for the producers? And maybe not. Is it better for consumers? Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't think that the consumers will notice that, especially because, I mean, many consumers, they think, oh yeah, the agave is cheaper, so then tequila is gonna be cheaper. That's not necessarily the like what
Right,
it
the
will
reality,
happen,
yeah.
or the reality. But I think it's a problem. It's a problem for the farmers now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's a problem for the tequila companies now as well. Why is that? Because like, it will happen again.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
will happen again,
I heard it's every 14
and
years.
again and again.
Yeah.
And it will continue happen if we don't agree with farmers on paying fair prices.
Mm-hmm.
When it's too expensive, the farmers are like just taking the money, right?
That's right.
And when it's too cheap, then the tequileros are like I mean, it's what it is, right?
Exactly.
So it's a battle that we just need to end if we want to take the tequila category again to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
If tequila wants to compete with like vodkas and like the big boys, which now is doing, but like if we wanna like grow as an industry, we just need to make it more sustainable in the way of like it has to be business for the farmers, but also it needs to be business for the tequileros.
Tough balance. You're right. Yeah,
it is tough, but I think that you can. I mean, there are ways of doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't. I mean, again, I don't see that coming, to be honest.
I don't either.
But that's kind of, I'm very naive on thinking it, but that will be kind of like one of the solutions, to the problems that we're having with agave.
Sure. So, that trip I just mentioned, I was Lucas was out there.
Oh, Lucas Assis.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Yeah, I've met him before. We've talked quite a bit and stuff. And he's a really nice guy. And I was on that trip. There's this thing about tequila influencers now. You know? How do you feel about that piece of it? How do you feel about a few people kind of telling everybody else which tequilas they should buy? I mean, people call me that sometimes, and I don't think I'm that. But how do you feel about that kind of culturally?
I mean, I think that it's an evolution on not only tequila, but in every category. Like we were in New York yesterday, and my wife Regina, she's like, "Hey, I really want a bagel," and I'm like, "I love bagels." I mean, and we were like, we were heading to the like our flight was like at 6, right? So we had like a long, like a lot to do in the morning.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Like we don't have it was a Sunday, so
yeah.
So we go to this place, and there was like a 40-minute line.
Holy crap!
And I'm like, now we're here. I mean, let's do the line.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something going on here, right? So we did the line, and when we were like waiting, I told Regina, like she loves TikTok and like because that's what like she does for like me for work, right? Like she's a stylist, or she like has like a lot of like her inspiration and information comes from social media.
Sure.
So I'm like, TikTok did this, like
yeah,
right? But probably they're really good, and it's not only happening in tequila.
No, I know it's in all the
it's an evolution on like how it's an evolution in marketing.
Yeah,
and I think that agave influencers or spirits influencers, they bring a lot of positive impact in the industry. But it's just all. I mean, it depends who, right?
That's right.
Like who, like are you like qualified
to
talk about what you're talking?
Yeah, and there's no certification product.
There's no certification, and I guess we need to trust on the consumer that they're following kind of like the right guys.
Yeah.
The agave influencers that I know, they know what they're talking about, and they go to Guadalajara and they immerse themselves into this world.
Yeah.
Guadalajara or the highlands or the valley or Oaxaca.
Yeah, right.
But there's a line, or there's a fine line where like what's like what's the threshold, or what's the certification,
which begs the question, how was the bagel?
It was really good.
Okay, well there you go.
It was amazing.
Yeah,
really, really good.
Was it? Okay.
Like,
in this particular case,
it was worth the wait. It was worth the line.
Yeah.
But to my point is like, I mean, it's just a new way of communication.
I totally get it. Yeah, and like now everybody's got a podcast. I've had one for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And this isn't because I was smart or anything. I'm just like, well, I like microphones and I like talking to people, and then I honed my skills and all of that. So also doing videos and stuff for a long time. So I think it comes back to qualified.
Qualified, and it's the same as us, right? When we started Lalo, the additive free movement was not a thing. I mean, it was almost starting.
Mm-hmm.
But we started Lalo as an additive free brand because, I mean, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, you did it for the right reason.
Yeah, because it's how I learned,
Mm-hmm.
not because it's a trend.
That's right.
Now that it's a trend, it's a big trend, it's a big thing. Oh, every other week on new tequila, and we're additive free, and we're
exactly.
And but again, I think it just comes with or problems, if you can call it problems, that comes with just new things.
Right. I agree. Like, people jumping on the bandwagon, they consider it kind of a trend. So I got a couple questions left for you. This one I think I might know the answer to. I try never to assume, but I ask everybody this question. Get a huge variety of answers too. So let's say you're anywhere in the world, doesn't matter where, and you've got a copita of Lalo, and you could share a drink with any person, living or deceased. Who would you love to sit there?
Oh, my dad.
I knew it. Yeah.
Oh my God, like 100%.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the, like, I mean, the way that the fact that he's not here and that he can't see what we've done in Lalo, it's one of the things that I'm like, man, I wish like he could. I can see his face of like what we've done.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously,
I figured y'all did drink tequila together at several points.
Yeah, I mean, I was young, and my father, since I mean, I was lucky enough that like he always taught me how to respect tequila and to respect alcohol.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did drink together. But I wish
that's different.
It's different.
Yeah, I understand. So, last question for you. You've been traveling all over the place.
Yeah.
And I know you said next month for your honeymoon, you're going to Japan, which is a great
experience. Like wedding anniversary.
Wedding anniversary. Thank you. Sorry.
It's just kind of like a honeymoon.
Yeah. It's doing it every year.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So, where are you going next? Is Japan the next trip, or because you said this is like the only day we could secure? Because I think you're leaving like
so I got last night from New York, and we were in New York for almost 2 weeks.
Okay.
Well, Boston first, and then New York. But I was just in Austin here just today.
Oh man!
Tomorrow I go to Houston.
Okay.
Well, apparently there's a hurricane coming.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I didn't look at the weather.
It's hitting Louisiana or something like
Oh
that.
crap!
So I don't know if like my event is gonna like cancel. Last time I was in Houston, it got canceled because of like
same thing
storm.
Yeah.
Anyway, Houston from like 2 days, and then I'm back on Thursday. I spend the weekend here. I have a cousin that is coming to visit. And then I fly to Guadalajara on Tuesday next week, and then I fly back on Friday from Guadalajara, and then on Monday I go to Japan.
See, I'm getting tired just hearing this.
Oh wait, we come back from Japan the 4th, October the 4th, and then the 7th I'm in San Miguel de Allende for 3 days, and then I'm back for the weekend of ACL, the second weekend, which I'm excited about, and then and then I'm in Wisconsin the weekend of the F1.
Yeah, wow.
In Austin. And then I'm back, and then we're in Tulum for a Lalo event that we're doing there for like 5 days. That's only October.
Yeah, I know. That doesn't stop, does it?
Well, I told my team like November and December, please.
O&D.
I want to be home.
Yeah.
I see. I just want to like rest.
Got it.
So I'm gonna travel. I think I'm in San Francisco in November and Kansas City, just 2, and then December in Guadalajara, obviously.
Yeah.
With the family, but for a few days and then back here.
I just, like I said, scheduling time with you but it's all about persistence, honestly. And I never mind, right? But I have to have it in my head that I'm going to interview you. And it's going to happen,
and thank you for having me.
Of course.
It's an honor to be here, especially because of how passionate you are about agave spirits and spirits in general. I sometimes feel that I'm not that I don't belong sometimes in some places.
Really?
With like people that it's like that is so passionate. And I mean I'm really passionate, but like it's like, is this a dream or and I mean it.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate the opportunity. Lalo is a storytelling brand.
Yeah.
Apart from what we deliver as the product, as the juice, we have a story to tell, and I think it's a story that matters.
I think so too. It's been really good learning about things. I love learning new things, no matter, because going back to your point, I have a saying, and I think I invented it, but maybe I heard it from somebody, but if I'm the smartest person in the room, I find another room.
Yes.
Because I never want it to be that way.
Yeah.
Ever. I always want to learn
me
from
too.
other people.
Me too.
Yeah.
So no, I appreciate the opportunity to be on your, which is the 400th episode.
Yeah, that I've recorded. They're not all out yet, but that's part of the time management pieces. I have them. They're all edited. I just have to go release them. So it's crazy. Yeah,
that's amazing. Congratulations and
thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah, and I hope we'll find another time to have a sip together.
We'll
figure that one out.
December and January, I'm
pretty much
open.
I love it.
So reach out.
Yes,
I'm here.
Of course.
So
Eduardo, Lalo, thank you so much.
Thank you,
chatting,
Mike.
man. We'll talk soon. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Well, there we have it. Eduardo Lalo González, the founder of Lalo Tequila, which I said in the intro that the tequila is good. It's great tequila, but I think even the greatest tequilas in the world, to me, sometimes aren't as vibrant as I would like. So I got to say that ahead of time. It's really great to sit down and finally chat with Eduardo. Like I said, we've been going back and forth for probably about a year to try to make this happen. His team, his communications team, his PR team has been nothing but incredibly cordial and accommodating. And we talked about it after we stopped recording, and it was mentioned on the Ask Me Anything that Eduardo did for Reddit. But just recently, like within the past few weeks, Lalo High Proof Tequila at 54% ABV finally hit the market. The bottle is arriving tomorrow. I can't wait to try it. When I think of beautiful tequilas, often they're more expressive at those higher ABVs, and I have a feeling this will be among the best overproof tequilas I've ever had. So thanks for taking the time out to chat with me, Eduardo, and thanks everybody for listening to Show to V. No matter if you've got background music or movies playing in the living room while you do this voiceover, or if you're thinking it's almost Thanksgiving, that's really strange. Please keep dancing.